What is up, everybody? Jason Tracy. What if doing business was just a lifestyle? You're going to want to tune into today's episode of Mary Vance. We're going to talk about doing just that, living the lifestyle, doing business, living the dream, and taking care of your body too. What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. Man, this is like the thing that I get to do. I love this. I love coming in, talking to difference makers, and this one's a fun one. If you woke up today and you didn't have the grit, if you didn't have the energy, like this is the episode for you. You need to tune in and listen. This is going to be awesome. My first episode I did with Mary Vance was 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. It was episode 96. That's how fast the consistency happens of doing an episode every single week. We're all the way out to 214. Like how crazy. Woo-hoo! I'm so excited because that the episode was titled "Wake the Fuck Up." So if what else could you expect in this episode? It was phenomenal. It was off the hook. It was incredible. It gave me so much energy when I left here, and that was one of the things. Like we talked about, like Mary's a perfect billboard for what she does. She's Mary Vance Lifestyle, right? And like, how do you when people see her, they see that energy. It's like, do you want to live like Mary? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But that first time I met Mary, I felt the energy from behind the wall. And she was at my office space. We talked about it. Go back to episode 96. We didn't talk about it. But when she came roaring out, I'm like, who's that? I need to meet her. And it's been, like I said, now 2 years later, and I know a bunch of things have changed. One, our office building closed down, and then we kind of like merged to a closer unit and got to know each other even more. I've got to meet some of her friends and work closely with Kevin Brown, who you guys have seen on the podcast several times now, has his own podcast. He's out there killing it with his own podcast. So it's just cool. My favorite thing about this whole thing is doing business is the people. And Mary Vance is one of those people that I just love talking to you. So
thank you. And I love you, Jason, and props to Kevin Brown too. I love Kevin Brown. He is one of my dearest friends. And so it was listening to that podcast that he was like, I got to meet that guy. And he had to meet you after listening to our podcast.
And it's crazy because like I see now stuff popping up that me and Kevin have been doing stuff for like over a year now. So it's just crazy how time flies by.
Yeah. Well, last time we met, I was on my way to Peru, and then for a retreat for myself, and then I was going to run back-to-back retreats, an all-women's retreat and then individual retreat. And so same scenario 2 years later, in less than a week, I am headed out to St. Croix to run an all-women's retreat. So again, that consistency, that timing, that just one step in front of the other, doing the same thing day in and day out will net you some good energy if your patterns are good.
I love it. I want to go back to that text that you sent me this morning, and you're talking about like kind of reflection of your life. You think that if people were watching you, you'd be boring because of how redundant you are, but that redundancy creates the lifestyle you're able to lead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm like a broken record. Focus on your hydration, your nutrition, your movement, your rest. Daily, drink the same amount of water. Get some movement training in. Get some patterned movement routine in. Eat clean foods towards your energy goals. Get ample rest. I look like a very boring individual, but it's because I follow this routine and this discipline. I'm not leaking energy everywhere. And the text I sent you, I was like, I listened to our last podcast, and then I thought, well, shoot, I've been to South America. I've been to Peru. I've been to Switzerland and Germany, and I hiked the Alps with my son. I've been to Alaska and car camped around Alaska with that same son and went to some of the most I've been so many places in the world. Alaska tops them all. I was like, what is this place? It's magic. And that's not to mention that I've run 2 more retreats and I've been all over the continental USA. But it's because of my day-to-day patterns that look mundane and boring that whenever I need to just take a jump into a different direction or wherever I'm called to go, I can do so. And because my clientele follows the lifestyle patterns, they learn that they have to be resilient. Resiliency is healthy.
It's absolutely. It's funny because I've had this conversation several times with like the resiliency and like as a parent, a lot of times like we want to protect our kids from bad things happening to them. Life.
Right. We can't. That's the other thing I tell people. Don't get so busy working that you actually don't get to experience life. And, what my patterns have net me, I'm a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 beautiful children that I've raised and dedicated an enormous amount of energy to. I have my own business. I've had several businesses that have transitioned over the years. I think we talked last time. I used to own the old Handy Rental in Brighton, Michigan, which is now Simply Fresh Organic Market. So a lot of people that might see this podcast might remember me from 20 years behind the counter at Handy Rental, running bobcats and trenchers and always thinking about what am I going to do for my nutrition, passion. And I became a massage therapist then. I had my own massage business, my own nutrition coaching business, all these things. But it's through those mundane patterns and doing the same thing over and over again that I gain energy and I prioritize every day. It's that easy.
Simple, but not easy.
Simple. Well, we talk about this. The 3 principles are keep it simple, focus on what you can do today, and build your team. And that last one seems like, who's my team?
Yeah.
Well, we can all tell the people that never played team sports when we're adults working in the world. That has to be their way and their way only. They didn't ever see that there's a team collaborative to make the world go around.
And I said it at the top. My favorite part about doing this is building those relationships. And even so, last week I had Erica on. So Erica, and it's so awesome. Like
Erica's wonderful. Erica
wonderful.
McNamara. She is an amazing family lawyer, and she is literally the sweetest person on the planet, and genuinely cares about humanity. She couldn't fake that. She doesn't have mean bone in her body.
Yeah. No, and that's what's so awesome. What I love about Erica, she's not that person that like stands up on the platform and like shouts out all the things that she does. And so we got to do it on here, it's just a different, but being surrounded, we're in a small office, and it's me and it's you and Erica and then Tiffany.
Right.
And like, there's some great vibe there, but it's like, who's in your community? Who is on your team?
Right. Well, and now just who moved in there is the people, the Brighton, tourist people, right? When you come
Brighton
to Livingston County, they tell you where to go and who to see and all the things.
I have to say, explaining where the office is at. I love being able to say, we're in the same office as Explore Brighton Howell.
Right.
It's easy to look up now. There's a big sign there.
Right.
But it also kind of, we're part of everything that's happening down there.
Right. I know.
I love it.
It's nice. It's like we're
nice.
in this little nook away from everything, but we're connected to everything.
Yeah. Well, and you look, and so, you talk about consistency, yet so much has changed, I think, in 2 years. I know even just the small things like grit and lavender in the office space.
Yeah.
And we have, like, the things around us have to change and adapt, and I know you took the same attitude I had as far as when Natalie said I'm closing up. It's like, change happens,
Right. I was like, I wonder where I'll go. And then Erica said, do you want to leave? I said, no. She said, well, then don't. I said, okay. Right. And that was it. And then
she made it that easy.
She really did. She made it that easy. And yes, the space was smaller, but I don't think any one of us get paid for what the space looks like. Nobody comes to me for a massage to get like ambiance.
Yeah.
They come to me because they want knots worked out of their tissue.
Yeah.
I thought about it today because the man that I worked on today, he's in his 80s and I love him to pieces, but he's been my client since I think 2010.
Wow.
A lot of I don't have a huge growing massage clientele. I don't want a huge growing massage clientele. Most of my clients are somewhere between 10 and 20 years old, and they're repeat, right? Because they understand that they're going to come to me and we're not going to just, I will if they just need a relaxation massage, but I'm a deep tissue massage therapist. And so you don't come to me for candles and fancy things. You come into my little room and basically I mechanically take apart your body.
Yeah.
Right.
Do people get the difference, I guess, between like the candles and the...
Yeah, for sure. I explain myself as a deep tissue or athletic or, I focus on sports massages. And then I have some, I don't really have anybody that I do like just relaxation fluffy massages. And my prices would show that, right? If you want a relaxation massage, go somewhere you're going to pay $60 an hour. You're going to pay $100 an hour. And most of my massages are 90 minutes to 2 hours. Most people actually of my clientele get 2-hour massages.
Yeah.
And a lot of places that do the relaxation massages don't even offer 2-hour. But if I have to release your entire shoulder, I have to work on your pecs, and I have to work on your scalenes, and I have to work on your traps, and I have to work on your deltoids, and I have to work on your bicep, and I have to work on your lats and your rhomboids and your subscapula. Like, I have a lot to do just to release some of those deep muscles. And so that's the difference, is I'm literally going to basically rearrange maybe a whole quadrant of you, and by deep tissue, I'm not ever hurting people. That's why it takes so long, because you have to go so far and then you have to come back a little bit, and you have to go so far and revisit it. But, most people come out feeling like they don't have to come back for a while.
It's huge. And it's funny because I've always, like, when I've went into sessions, I'm like, oh, they're still in there. Right. It's been a couple hours,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think I have 12 clients that get 2-hour massages only. But also my clientele tends to be people that are entrepreneurs, that own several businesses. Most people that are like start to gain energy through their lifestyle or through whatever, not just gaining money, but once you have more energy, you can create more things. And as in my nutrition programs, one of the things that I really focus on is our brain health. And when your brain resiliency, when your motor neurons start to get really active, you want to create more. It's just a truth. And so some people just are like, okay, I need 2 hours, put on the music. If they don't care what music, we're going to listen to my Jesus jams, right? Like, I'll let them pick the music. But that's the other thing. You don't come into my office and get like, da, 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 da. There's no elevator spa music going on. I say, what do you want on Spotify? Or do you care if I listen to what I want to listen to?
Yeah.
Or we can just be quiet. Some people just want to talk, right?
How many people want to talk?
Because a lot of my clients are my nutrition clients.
Yeah.
I would say 80% want to talk for at least a good portion of it.
Well, and like, how many of your clients are doing a little bit of everything?
Right. Well,
like, you talk about nutrition and like, what are the other things that you work with them on?
Yeah. So again, it's a lifestyle coaching program.
And I don't think last time we got that deep on this. So
we didn't. I mean, that's what I truly do so again, I was going to school a long time ago, back when I was 17. My passion has always been nutrition. Then when I was 19, I came home to help my family run a business because my father had had a stroke. And then I stayed at home and followed that through, did all the things, became a massage therapist, got all the nutrition certifications I needed, but I could never actually get back to school until I sold the business. And that was quite a big chunk of time in between. And so nutrition, anybody who talks to me knows that I could talk nutrition all day, all night. I don't get bored of it. That's how you know you have passion.
Yeah.
Because I don't get bored of it. Well, I used to do these, little classes to raise awareness about food sensitivities. And then I would, teach like AA groups, like, how to manage your mind and mood and help your detox after, you're getting sober, and how to feel better and get your energy back. And then I started to run these programs, and they were 12-week programs where people would learn what we were doing and how they were doing it to start feeling better. And then I went to a 10X conference with Kevin Brown. So jump ship, 30 years into my career of nutrition, all the things I was doing. I was, I think, 37 when I sold Handy Rental to Simply Fresh. And I started my own coaching, massage, nutrition only. And I always laugh about this because I signed a non-compete with the people that I sold the rental division to. I sold the rental division, all the party supplies. We had tents for 1,000 people, tables, chairs, decorations, linens, chair covers, china, all this stuff. I've been doing this, and I signed this non-compete, and somebody said, but Mary, then you wouldn't be able to work in the rental industry again. And I said, we're going to burn that bridge. Give me the matches. Because I didn't want to fall back into something that I knew. I didn't love that. Or I would have never,
you just fell
I
into
made great
it.
money doing it. Why would I have left if it wasn't like a higher calling? So when I started over again, that is when I was able to focus all my attention on my nutrition programs. And yes, I did massage. I love massage. I'm good at massage. I don't need to grow my massage clientele. I'll take new clients. It's fine. But you generally have to be referred to me. That's kind of important to me because I already have kind of a longstanding, I have enough of that. But I will help people if they want a massage for sure.
You do enough to fill your bucket and what you like
on
to
massage.
do. And
Yeah. So the nutrition part, Kevin Brown and my ex and his wife all went to Vegas to a 10X conference. And it's Grant Cardone and, you know, all the how to open your mind, how to 10X your business. And so after that, I took my nutrition programs and I was like, well, I could just scale it. I could just do 12-week, 26-week, or a year programs. That year, I sold 2-year programs. It was people that had to lose more than, say, 80 pounds, and they wanted to have accountability and consistency and eyes on them throughout the time. And I was like, okay, this is a good idea, right? So that kind of took my coaching to a different place because I had always done only 12-week programs. So I had to expand. Once I had the idea, I put the idea out. And then once like people were like, okay. And a lot of those people that have done year programs with me are still doing year programs with me because they just keep getting better. And I stay on the kind of cutting edge of what's happening. One of the things that I love talking about is, have you heard of BDNF?
No.
Okay, brain-derived neurotropic factor. And so this has kind of been something that I've been talking to people for about, I don't know, I would say 6 years. One of the females that comes and helps me run the retreats, like she cooks and she lives the lifestyle. And so I started working with her when she was 18. She was very concerned that because all of like a lot of people in her lineage and her generational upline had things like dementia or Alzheimer's, she was a young girl and she was worried that might happen to her. And I don't, you know, people got anxiety over whatever reasons, money or this or that or whatever. And so I get to know this girl after a while, and she got a side job to work with me. So $1,500 for 12 weeks for an 18-year-old that had to get another job to save to work with me. So she's like, you know, I'm really concerned about this. And, you know, she was also a college athlete, wanted to optimize her energy, wanted to shift her composition, all the things. But so I took her to a doctor friend of mine he's my doctor. His name's James Neuenschwander from the Bioenergy Medical Center. And, you know, we got some genetic testing on her, and he was like, you know, you don't have to worry about those kind of things. You know, let that off your mind. He's like, there's certain genetics that, you know, if you have this set of genetics, then it's more likely. But, you know, don't worry about it. Well, we get the genetic testing back in, and sure enough, she's got the subset. And she kind of, I mean, this girl's smart as a whip. She knew something was up, you know. And at that point, he said, well, one of the most important things you can do to circumvent the probability and make it a small possibility is take care of your brain health. And there's something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. Guess what the most beneficial way we can actually cultivate that is? You do it every day.
Sleep,
but movement.
Oh.
Exercise.
Okay.
So exercise helps to create this. Now, BDNF is like, so we have these like connections, these neurons in our brain that are connecting and kind of outreaching to other things to make our brain work well. And the BDNF helps them to continue to grow. People used to think that as you aged, they just go down. Well, you don't have to just let them go down. Like you can actually keep moving. A lot of people say that one of the key to longevity is moving. You can listen to music that you love. So music, a lot of people that are like praise takes them to a whole different place in their mind and their being and their soul and their spirit. So music is one of them. There's, you know, spending time with people that socially that you love. So a lot of things that help us overall also create this. And then as I'm reading this article that's published from, I think it's called Brain Be Fit. And they're like, the diet that you do not want to follow is the standard American diet that is high in saturated fats and high in processed sugars. Yep. The Mediterranean diet would be the diet that would be good for you. Now, there's a lot of cool things about the Mediterranean diet that I could talk about all day long. Number one, they're on a coastline. They're having a lot of seafood, lean protein, fish with good fats, good omega-3s. They're in the sun all the time. So these longevity people, I love this. I love longevity. I could talk about centenarians forever. You look at what they're doing and you say, okay, so they live in equatorial, tropical, sunnier places that are sunny all the time. But what they're not doing is they're not living in Michigan where it's dark for 7 or 8 months, right? Centenarians, like the sunlight is constantly hitting their brain. They don't have it's hard in Michigan. It's hard in Seattle. It's hard in DC, places where things are dark. The blood vessels are getting constricted. We don't even want to go outside because it's like, okay, where's the sun anyhow?
In a day like today, it's like, let's go outside, please.
I told my daughter, I said, if he was willing to do the podcast outside, I would do it.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So, but longevity wise and this BDNF factor, the Mediterranean diet, number one, they have all these coastline foods. Dairy is actually going, like the fattier meats in the dairy are going to be where the colder regions are. Like anytime you're in a southern region, it's sunny, there's tropics, there's fruit. There's no fat tree that's giving us any fat. They're having olives, they're having olive oil, they're having the fats from the fishes. And the dairy is getting imported more from the north a lot of the time, right? So there's chicken and you've been to Hawaii, there's chickens everywhere. You go to any of the tropics, there's fruit constantly. There's avocados. There's not a lot of this get some meat on your bones for the colder region. What grows, the root vegetables, the cows, the farming.
Yep.
So I look at these things and I think when they're talking about your brain health and a Mediterranean diet being the most helpful, to me, it makes sense. The other thing about the Mediterranean diet is a lot of times their largest meal is in the middle of the day, not the end of the day, which how much sense does that make?
It makes so much, like the middle of the day makes so much more sense because it gives you energy, right, for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Versus
eating a big meal at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. When do you process that? When you're sleeping?
You're most likely going to store it.
Yeah.
So, unless there's always factors involved. But so many people tell me, well, I just don't eat all day long till the end of the day. And then I eat all my food at the end of the day. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't you give yourself energy? Why would you start the car with no gas in it all day long, run on fumes? And then, because people don't see food as energy in America. As soon as you can make that mind shift, you will succeed. You will do nothing but succeed. Once you realize you are ingesting for energy, for actually to run your body's life, instead of just for funsies, you will change. And you will change irrevocably. And it's amazing. So that's the other thing. Like people, I don't go out a lot. I don't drink. Mm-hmm. I've been sober 22 years this year, right? So I don't want to do things to waste energy. I don't want to do things to bring myself down. I pretty much give God about a 16-hour workday every day. And I'm fine with that.
And you have the energy to do it.
I really do. Sometimes I'm irritable, but I'm also premenopausal. So deal. That's real, right? So I do have the energy to do it. And I do prioritize my rest. One thing, the 4 pillars of my program, hydration, if I could just ad nauseum, just talk about hydrating America with water, not with pop, not with alcohol, but actually getting people hydrated again, that's part of it. That's the biggest game changer there is. I love to give people the example of 2 plants. So you have one plant here that's super dehydrated. It looks like it's not going to make it. It's at the farmer's market and they're like, these ones are on sale. And then you have this other plant, say it's a tomato plant, and it's like, it looks like it already has the little yellow flower on it and it's beautiful and it looks healthy. And you see those 2 plants and the one is hydrated and has nutrition.
Yeah.
So this one's not dead yet. But it's not doing real well. Well, I could look at it and I could get $2,000 Miracle Grow pellets, and I could put those pellets all over on that plant. But it's not going to get the nutrition unless it's hydrated, right? So then you're going to hydrate it, and at first it's going to leak out. A lot of it's going to leak out. And then it's going to start to come back to life. And then it's going to start to come back to life. But until it gets hydrated, it's not going to bear fruit.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather have a little extra meat on my bones, a little extra material that's a good composition and have extra energy than chase being a certain number on a scale or being too either dehydrated or malnourished. Hearty is healthy, right? It just is good. So
And I love how you said that about the Miracle Grow and the pellets. Like, I love the analogy because I think a lot of people will put a lot of money into different things, supplements or whatever the case may be, miracle pills, whatever the case, energy drinks. They do these things in order to get this energy or to, if they just drink the water, it would
it could deliver.
Nourish the environment.
My favorite picture on the planet is the blood vessel system. The body's exhibit it's a traveling thing, but there's one that is stationary in Vegas at the Luxor. And what they do is they'll inject like a system full of a polymer, and then a dead person's, this particular one I'm talking about is a dead person's cardiovascular system. Mm-hmm. They inject it with a red polymer, and then they crack apart all of the material. So you're just left with this blood vessel system. And you can see how compressed and so many vessels are inside of the skull. And then you can see like this major network of arteries, veins, capillaries, your blood vessel system. Mm-hmm. Most people don't know that's our major nutrition delivery system. And so the plasma is 90% water. So when you go to give blood and they say, oh, did you drink water today? I can't find your vein. They want, that's the veins of the plant. That's what's going to deliver our nutrition to all our tissue. Like the apple is not getting to my fingertip via a chunk of apple somehow strangely getting shot through my stomach to my fingertip, right? My brain, you know what I mean? Like the chunk of chicken has to seriously go through a lot of enzymatic processes and then get to the right spot in our gut to then like everything starts to truly magnificently absorb into our system, get into our bloodstream, and start to get delivered. And the brain decides where things are getting delivered per priority, per survival priority. It's freaking amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's amazing how uneducated we are. And so many people are.
It's really simple, though. Like, people have survived from, I don't even know how long humans have been on the planet. I'm sorry, but we survived well before books.
Yep.
We survived well before YouTube, Wikipedia, all of the things. Like, somehow, if we ate things that were natural, edible, if we took the water, made it good, like somehow we knew what to eat, what not to. We used to just like, if something smelled bad, don't touch it, right? Let's look at all the dogs. What are they doing? Nope, right? So all these different things, and somehow we decided to get complicated. And that's why I say keep it simple, right? I am going to always gear you towards eating foods that are less processed. I am going to teach you that pop is not acceptable. It really, for the correlation between drinking pop, whether it's diet pop or regular pop, to the correlation of having a cardiac event that is not a positive cardiac event at some point in your lifetime, the correlation's too great for me. I'm not into it. So I think I've told you this many times, but my kids are now 20, 20, and 21, and they've never had pop. I mean, maybe now my kid has had a rum and coke or something. I don't know. The 21-year-old, he's in Alaska. But he lives the lifestyle, more than anybody. I mean, he is a very fit, strong young man, but that was because he had, the cancer when he was younger, and he didn't want to go down that route. And he knows that, you never know if something's going to come back, but he wanted to live a healthy life. And lucky for me, I have some very good friends in this town that are male athletes. So there's a guy named Jeff Johnson. He's an amazing power lifter. Yeah. There's a guy named Jamie Caparoso. He used to own a place called Paleo for Power. He's called the Keto Daddy. So both of these guys, we all kind of went to school together, but they've taken their athleticism to very strong places. Yeah. And when my son went through that with his cancer, and there's another guy, Mike Moran. And so I took my son to all three of these like really strong athletic male role models to talk about the importance of living a healthy life for his body. And Anthony, he still to this day eats so clean, so healthy.
And just say some of the things he's accomplished. This is really cool.
Right. So Anthony, he always wanted to go into the military since he was 10 years old. So 10 years old, calls me upstairs. He says, Mom, I know what I want to do with my life. And I said, okay, son, what do you want to do? And he says, I want to be a soldier. And I was like, okay. then we start training, immediately, right? And he used to have all these soldiers on his windowsill, and he'd draw these soldiers everywhere. And so it turns out at about 15 years old, he comes up to me and he says, Mom, do you think we can get me another kidney by the time I'm 18? Because he was born with one conjoined kidney. It's fine, but he was born with one. And I said, sure. I said, we can talk about this. I said, but why do you need a kidney again? And he said, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to be a Marine if I don't have a kidney. And I said, oh, they're not just going to give you a kidney because you want to be a Marine. I said, okay. So I said, we'll burn that bridge when we get there. I said, we could probably get a waiver or something. Well, time comes around and this kid gets through. The cancer was not a problem. That got a pass because it was gone and had been gone for, it was like 1 in a billion chance it would come back. But the kidney was a problem to be a Marine. And he was crushed. And he comes home and he's really bummed out. And I said, well, let's go to Montana and climb a mountain. And I said, you're going to take next week off school. And so we drove out to Montana. I said, we're not even going to talk about this till we get to the top of a mountain, because he had never been to the top of a mountain. And I said, we're going to have a conversation from a different perspective. And so we get to the top of a mountain. And I said, have you even tried the other branches, son? He goes, no, they probably won't let me in. I said, they probably won't let you in? I said, the Marines are the ones that are going to be the ones going into the hardest places. And I could see where 2 kidneys is a big compromise, because dehydration could be really real. And I said, well, what order of the other branches would you want to do? And he's like, well, I could be a combat medic, He said, maybe the Army, then the Navy, then da-da-da-da. So he goes and he applies for the Army. He gets the waiver. The day he gets the waiver, he calls me and he said, Mom, he said, I got into the Army. I'm gonna sign in. I'm gonna give my oath tomorrow before they change their mind on me. And so he's not even graduated high school yet, and he's 100% 2 feet in the canoe. And then he goes to Kuwait, and he starts to get during his basic training, he got the Physical Excellence Award. So there's like 600 and some cadets, and, he's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, but overall, really knowing how to deadlift got him, and deadlift well, got him to where he, passed different things that other people didn't. But so he wins the Physical Excellence Award. This is the greatest story. So he wins the Physical Excellence Award this is in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Then he goes to Kuwait for a year, and he, does great in Kuwait, all the things. He's very happy to not be in Kuwait. And then he gets stationed in Alaska. While he's in Alaska, he decides that he's going to go for this certain credential that is like an elite medic badge. You do these different things, and it's a very hard test. I don't even comprehend how hard it is. Well, something like 11 to 17% of people can get this even after they've tried several times. So out of 100% of people trying, even after several times, not everybody's getting it. So Anthony he's stationed in Fort Wainwright, and he goes to Anchorage to take the test, and he passes. And so he comes back, and one of the sergeants that have been watching him since Fort Sill said, are you the boy that won the physical, or, Vance, are you the soldier that won the Physical Excellence Award at Fort Sill? And he said, yes, sir. He said, we want you to compete in the Army Best Medic competition. So he gets the certification, then he competes in the Army Best Medic competition at 21 years old in Alaska. And then him and his partner win it. And now he had done Wim Hof training with me as a kid. He had done all this stuff. And the best part of this part of the story, now he goes on to the big Army Best Medic competition, but the best part of this story is he's in this competition. He said, Mom, we're in the middle of Alaska. The weather's beautiful. We're seeing like bears in the wood line. And he's like, we're walking around and there's no war and I don't have cancer. He goes, I don't understand why people are complaining. I feel like they're tired. And then he said, but Mom, they are tired. He goes, what's different about you and I? How come people's energy goes away and ours doesn't? And I was like, ours. He's like, because literally, yeah. I clock it. I'm healthy if I can climb the Alps without a day's notice, right? If you said, Mary, do you want to go do Kilimanjaro? And if I had to like prep myself for a year, I'd be like, where have I let myself go? Like, what? No, Mary, right? So he said that. And I was like, well, hun, because I've cared for our mitochondria since you were 5 years old. And so that's when I say, do you want energy or do you want a quick shot of coffee or a quick line of meth? Like that's going to go away real quick. But like people that know me and like Like me and Kevin Brown, try being with us 24 hours a day. We probably drive the people that are closest to us crazy.
Yeah.
We always talk because I mean, Kevin, you got to get Kevin and I out here one day together because blah, 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 you know what I mean? And we always kid around that we'd kill each other if we lived much closer. Right. But that's what it is. And I don't want to, have to, I told you the story when I was 30 years old and I walked up, I was 257 pounds.
Yeah.
I walk up the stairs of my 2-story house and I'm out of breath with my laundry basket. And I thought, well, I'm going to buy a ranch.
So you didn't climb the stairs.
Right. And so as you get healthier, as you get leaner, I'm not that skinny. I'm 5'1" and I'm $138. Like that's not considered skinny.
Yeah.
But I'm strong and I'm healthy and I have energy and I know how to keep my bloodstream full of glucose because right now I'm running off of sugars. I'm not in ketosis. I'm running off of carbohydrates and glucose. And I know how to make sure my liver glycogen is topped off. So if for some reason I don't get to eat a meal in the day, I'm not going to completely like hit a wall. And, I know how to take care of my energy storage. And that's what I always want to give to my clients. If I did my job well after 12 weeks, your energy storage tanks. And you know how to keep your blood system running strong with energy. And if I've done really well, you know how to tap into your fat cells. And those suckers will be one-way inlets forever if you stay ignorant. I hate when people are like, oh, my metabolism's broken. I have my thyroid's broken. And I say, do you have a routine? Do you have a pattern? Well, do you know how much water you drink a day? Well, what do you eat? Well, I didn't eat yesterday. Today I ate 2 meals. Then I'm going to go out here. I said, you don't have metabolic syndrome, sweet love. And I'm going to swear right now. So you have random as fuck syndrome. And your brain and your thyroid have no idea how to deliver anything because they don't know what's coming next. They don't know if you're going to get water. They don't know if you're going to get food. They don't know what's happening. And so don't tell me that you've done everything. If you've never tried to have a pattern for 2 weeks and got a coach that can actually write the algebraic equation that'll help your body start to get in line with your goals, then don't tell me you've tried everything. So, I get a little passionate.
I love it because and you can apply that to everything in life. Because I think about like even doing business, like if you're doing the random as fuck equation, which a lot of people do, right? I'll do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then they'll do something that works, but it was not that much fun to do, like going out and making calls or doing something like that. And so they, they'll avoid that, and they're just doing the random stuff. And I see the same thing in diet, whether apply it, it's the simple
randomly
stuff.
Saving money.
Yep. Yeah.
Randomly anything.
Yeah.
So it's quite like the ways to health can be overlaid with everything. But what I find is the people that come to me and want to change, they've heard about me or they know somebody who's changed or they've seen the results. And they really have tried other things. And one of the things that you have to do if you come and work with me is you have to swallow your pride. Because number one, I'm never going to make you feel bad, but I am going to call you out on your crap. And sooner or later, I'm going to know, how's your bowel movements? So, if you start drinking again, I'm not a sponsor. I don't care if you drink, but I'm going to say, okay, well, did you do the alcohol protocol where you had the water afterwards? You get in a program with me and I'm going to ask you questions that the only way to get us to point B, much less your goal, is honesty.
Honesty.
Right. And I'm not going to talk to other people about, I might use a reference to like the girl that had the thing going on and she takes care of her brain now. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not going to use names. I'm not going to, tell other people your story. Your story is your story.
Yeah.
But I know that I've had enough credible results that number one, clients that have me love to keep me. My retention rate is crazy. And at some point I say, I think you're okay for a while because there's other people in line. There's only one of me.
Yes. Yeah.
And so one of the people that did a program on your show, the Strawsome folks, Brian and Deidre. Yeah. Brian is going to help me start to make my website more interactive. So if people want to learn different, pieces or whatever, he's going to help me with all that. Because my best is one-on-one or small groups, or I'll teach. I'll speak. I'll do all the things. But technology is not, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
That's like you say, you'll do the thing. If I did that thing, I'm sure, but I wouldn't be happy.
No, but then you have people like Brian
Mm-hmm.
that's what he loves to do.
Yep.
And when you have that relationship and you're able to pay him and bring him in, and then he's able to set you up, that makes that part easy, because it's not that you're not supposed to be doing that.
Right.
It's like, how can you make more impact?
Right.
But you don't need to be building out your website.
Right.
You don't need to be putting the thought in, how do I market this?
Right. And you know Brian, so luckily, he was my son's basketball coach.
Oh man, Brian, I could only imagine being the best basketball coach ever. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But it was through him and Deidre. So I have known them like through seeing them for years. It was through listening to our podcast that they called and were like, we can't believe we don't know you yet. We have to know you. And I was like, okay, then let's all meet. And
This is so awesome.
I know. And I was so mortified because I did not pick the title of that podcast and I did not pick the picture. He crept online and found that picture and that name. You have to be 18. You have to sign in as an 18-year-old to listen to it on YouTube.
Oh man.
And I see it because I was like, oh no, just creative license. Do whatever you want, Jason.
So YouTube is funny. When I uploaded it, it flagged it right away. There's some explicit language in here. We're gonna have to put and I'm like,
Right.
whatever. That was even before I think I was putting them on the episodes.
Right. Well, it's funny. I barely swear anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said it was right after that, right?
It was right after. So you and I. So again, let's just go real quick. So
Yeah.
because I feel like I do this every time. We have like 20 stories that are all tying in together. The hydration piece, the nutrition piece, truly one of the best things you can do is take away processed foods. If you really just wanted to start small, take away high fructose corn syrup, take away trans fats, and anything that you don't know what it means as an ingredient, take it away. Those 3 things, and you'll start getting on your way. The movement piece, so good for our brain, so good for our lymphatic system. In America, sometimes we allow ourselves to get stagnant and then we justify eating. Okay, no, we actually eat to have energy. And once you're stagnant, every athlete that knows, like, when we are very physically active, when, you get more food from me when you train, when you are active. And then when you get injured, we have to take the food to a very clear agreement and the healing supplements or the healing medications, whatever you're doing, to a very clear agreement, because you can't have the same amount of food moving
you're
6
not
hours
moving.
a day when you're not moving 6 hours a day.
Yep.
So that's where it comes to fuel. Could you imagine if I was like, every day I drive 100 miles to work and I put in $100 in my gas tank, but then I'm not driving anywhere today, but I'm still going to put $100 or 100 gallons in my gas tank. It's just going to overflow.
Yep.
And in fat world, or extra calorie or extra over nutrition, it's just going to store in your savings tanks. So a day off doesn't mean you just get to have a party with your food. A day off means, okay, if I'm not going to move as much today, maybe I need to just, cut back on the sweets, or, have a little smaller dinner. And that all depends on if you even have a baseline. So we got hydration, nutrition, movement, and rest. And rest piece is we must allow ourselves daily rest. And for me, why I do the retreat season is once a year, I want to kind of take everything, I kind of bring all my energy and all of my self back to myself, so that I can see, did I stay in alignment with what I said I was going to? Am I walking my talk? Am I good? Where am I still losing energy? And generally, it has nothing to do with everybody around me. It has to do where I'm not being integrable with myself. And I could blame everybody, but I'm old enough now. So I was 46 last time, I'm 48 now, is that I'm generally the common denominator in all of my problems in my world. And so once you really resolve that you aren't going to blame other people for the results of your life, it gives you a brand new perspective to take charge of your world. And it's a really great place. It's a great platform to start your life.
One of the things, as we were talking before we got on camera, you were talking about how, with your energy and being the billboard and everything else, that people are like, you notice people are just kind of paying you for conversation. So you're like, let's actually give them something.
Right. So I have been going on retreats where I fast and I pray and I kind of come back home to myself, kind of get out of the world, wash the yuck off the world, and like remember who I am and what's important to me. It's real easy to get caught up in other people's dreams or, feeling like everybody's giving you props or you're doing a good job. And then there's a day where you realize like you're only going to be able to run on your own passions and, kind of what your purpose is. So I had been, since I was in my early 20s, doing fasting retreats to clean up my body. I learned early on that a 72-hour fast will help your body start to not only clean up your digestive system, yeast, funguses, growths. It increases something called phagocyte production by 300 times, which if you understand what a phagocyte is, it's when you have something that needs to be cleaned up in your body. I always think of like little Pac-Man, right? Mm-hmm. If you can increase those suckers by 300 times over the course of just fasting, not making your body do things to deliver, but letting your body rest and just clean up, it's huge for longevity. And so so that's part of how the retreats came to be born. But how I explain that to people is imagine that every day you are a kindergarten teacher. And at the beginning of the day, the desks are beautiful. The garbage can is empty. The kids come in and it's like brand new clean world.
Yep.
By the end of the day, it's crazy,
yep.
right? There's probably like paper everywhere, crumbs everywhere, snacks everywhere, snot everywhere.
Yep.
The chairs
that was
are
my
up,
first thought
right.
was a snot.
Snot,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
In the little boy's bathroom, everywhere, everything everywhere. And then, so every night the maids come and they clean up. Now imagine they do this every day, but on the weekend, not only can they clean up, but they can deep clean things. If they see something broken, they can fix it, right? So now we have like a little bit of time where we get to do a little more. On the day-to-day, it's just enough to clean up.
Yep.
Now summer vacation hits. And now they can look at the room and they can say, okay, let's clean up that vent's broken, this. So after a 3-day fast, day one, our body's just cleaning up. I stand by everybody should have a 12-hour period between last meal of the day and first meal in the morning just to rest and digest, right? That's not even considered intermittent fasting. That's just like rest for 12 hours. Don't make your body like put more things in. Well, after that first day, the body's not taking in any more energy delivered. Now it's starting to use up what's still in the bloodstream, what's in the liver. It's starting to tap into your fat cells. By day 3, you're going to be in ketosis. By day 3, now we've run through our energy and we've tapped into our adipocytes, and now we're burning off ketones. So 3 days of fasting, not only are you burning off ketones, we've accessed our stored energy, which is great. We didn't have to put anything exogenously in the house. And at the same point, that healing system that produces phagocytes upregulates by so much. And it's scientifically documented that like yeast comes down, fungal infections, microbial infections. I haven't actually read that many studies on it. I've just heard people refer to the studies, but tumors and growths start to the body starts to prioritize. This is the next thing that has to go. So me and all of my kids fast, but about, I would say 10 years ago, I started running the retreats on St. Croix. And it's a U.S. Virgin Island. I have a large group of friends there and people that I know. People are always like, hey, will you run a retreat, at my place in Hawaii? I said, well, I don't know everybody there. And I'm running the retreat. And I need to feel relaxed for me to feel safe, confidently caring for you.
Yeah.
So we always go to the same island at St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we stay at one of 2 different eco lodges. These are not fancy retreats. Basically, I invite you to come and let me and my team take care of you nutritionally, and so you can rest, so you can do whatever you need to do. But you're on a 8-foot wide by 26-mile long island in the middle of the Caribbean that you couldn't run from your own problems if you tried, because we're not going to have a television. We're staying at Eco Lodge, know. I'm going to request that you don't have business meetings. A lot of people that come are people that are like running life hard. Yep. And so we do make an agreement if they have to get to an internet, once a day. But then it's done. Yep. Right. And some people just run their lives like that. Those are the people that have plans 2 years in advance, right? They're just like, day 3, I'm going to have to. Fine, whatever. Yep. But I encourage you to come for 5, 7, or 10 days and just let yourself come back to yourself. We do like 1 activity a day. Some people want to see the bioluminescence in the coves, the little sea creatures that glow, right?
Oh, that's super cool.
Super cool. Some people want a horseback ride on the beach. Some people, we always go to the botanical gardens because it's a nice thing to do in the middle of the day, and people can journal and just, have a shady place in the day. We always snorkel with sea turtles. If you want to snorkel, you don't have to. A lot of people, the first time they've ever been in the ocean is with me.
Wow.
And,
yeah.
it's very gentle. I'll hold your hand. It's fine. And if you want, I can get you an instructor to do it with you. But, we're not going deep by any stretch. We're going in like some seagrass that's a little over our head and snorkeling with turtles that are amazing. It's like touching God.
Oh, that's so awesome.
But, we do one thing a day. But for the most part, me and whoever comes with me on my team, we feed you all completely organic. It's like a slow food week. Nothing is processed. Nothing is not grown or raised on the island. And it's going to meet your nutritional needs, your macronutrient needs. And before you and I did our podcast, I was going to Peru to do a retreat for myself to heal some of my own things. And then I did an all-women's retreat and then a single retreat. This, where I'm going this year, is an all-women's retreat. And this is amazing. This woman has been my nutrition client for 4 years, and I've never met her. This is the second person that I've never met, but has been my client long-term, that has come on a retreat because they wanted to do something else with me. I've talked to this woman. She's always like, Mary, your retreats sound awesome, but I hate the tropics. But, and so I've never tried, she gets my newsletter, but I've never tried to push the retreats on her because for me, they're going to be at the tropics, right? So when I put out the invitation this year for the retreat and the time that I had available, she was the first one that signed up. And I was so confused. And then she called and she said, well, my mother died this year and I haven't had a chance to process and grieve. And I know you'll take care of my needs while I do that. Right? So people ask, what do you do on retreat? Well, everything I do is custom. Because I don't know you. Until I know you, I don't want you know what you need. I don't ever want things that I want for you. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be happy. I want you to live your dreams. I want to know your dreams, right? So this woman and then her cousin are going to come together and just have a chance to slow down and rest and be fed whole foods. And they don't want a lot of sun. So it's great. We're going to do like sunset sails at night. We're going to, the activity part of our get out and about is going to be in the evening. And at the day, the Eco Lodge that we stay in is literally a 3-minute walk from probably one of the most beautiful beaches you'll ever see. You ever see the pictures of me on the internet with me like by a rock?
Oh yeah.
Like that's just real. That is, there's no filter on that. Like, so that's where we always take.
I figured all your pictures come from your retreats.
Yeah. So my retreats, or sometimes Virginia Kamenetzer does professional photo shoots for me. She's the bomb. So VK Pictures, just.
We have to give her a shout out anyways.
Oh my God. Yeah. We love you, Virginia, so much. So much. Yeah. You are the best photographer. Anybody needs a good photographer to make you look and feel amazing for whatever event or professional photo shoot, athletic photo shoot, boudoir photo shoot. Virginia is your person. Stellar. Yeah. So yeah, 100%. So she takes some pictures and then I take them on the island. You don't need, and anybody who comes on the island, I say, bring a nice outfit. There's so many backdrops. I'll take you shopping. So we don't like hit a lot of worldly things, but because we're on this gorgeous island that's known for its jewelry making, and it's a kind of, the Caribbean's pretty exotic in its clothing. So usually we do spend one afternoon in the fancier town. So there's Frederiksted and Christiansted. We stay on the more agricultural east side, Frederiksted area. And then Christiansted's a little more touristy, but of all the Virgin Islands, this one is not touristy at all. It's the agricultural one. So it's the island that has the organic farm on it that gives the organic food to the other Virgin Islands. And we stay about 1.5 miles away from that. So, the whole island just goes along with everything I believe in, like slowing our food down, eating naturally, staying close to the earth.
How did you find the spot? You said you know a bunch of people down there?
So I was, Tom Brown Jr. died last year. He was a very dear teacher of mine, and I was an apprentice to him for many years. So I started training with Tom when I was in my early 20s in the survival skills and basically herbal mixing and compounding. So I'm very interested in how did the old healers of old care for people's bodies? And that's where it does matter if you know about a lymphatic system, and it does matter if you know how different systems work and how to clean them up and how to, basically I go all over the world and I study with the medicine people that can teach me things. And I've been doing that since my 20s. So Peru, I went to study with a Peruvian medicine man to learn some things. And I learned a lot. So one of Tom's most, basically, I would say, people that he trusts with the knowledge the most are a couple named Matt and Carmen Corendino, and they own Mount Victory Eco Lodge. It's a camp, Mount Victory Camp Eco Lodge on the island, and it's a really sweet place to come to the island and just be. But they teach tropical survival skills. So I took my family out there to do a tropical survival week when the kids were little. And they had to climb trees and get coconuts. They had to make fishing spears to stab crabs. We had to start our fire with bow drill. So I used to be a teacher for the Children of the Earth Foundation. And so I've taught a lot of people. A lot of you remember me from making fire with sticks, right? So I teach people that. So we did this. We had like 4 days of preparation, basket weaving, making these spears, getting the kids' minds wrapped around like not having food unless we caught it. Anthony was 14 at the time, and I think it was, he picked a bunch of slugs, and we put the slugs on the coals of the fire, and, you know, we just truly submersed ourselves with Matt and Carmen for 4 days, and then we went 3 days on survival. And Anna, she hated sleeping on everything. She felt so strong afterwards, but she did not like a moment of it, and now she loves that stuff. She made her own bow and arrow, and, you know, she was working on, I was trying to trap a ferret, or not a ferret, what do we call them, a mongoose. She was trying to shoot a mongoose, and the boys were just happy stabbing crabs and picking snails, right? And then we found an almond tree, and we were so happy. We gathered all these almonds, and if you ever had a native almond, they're like, the nut is about the size of my little pinky fingernail. So it's about a calorie, right? Like not much at all.
Yeah.
And so it was great. And the kids were starving by the time we got back to camp. And so they ate fish that they didn't normally eat. And they ate meals that were real food. They were hungry enough, but by the time we got back to camp, they didn't want their processed food. They wanted real food. So Matt and Carmen, Matt was actually on the, what do you call it? The Alone Show. He was on episode 8 or series 8 or something. I don't know what you call it, episode 8. But he's a very good survivalist. He didn't win, but his buddy comes out to the island that did win. I forget the guy who won that season 8. But they're just really good people. They live close to the earth. Carmen is masterful at the herbal mixing and compounding and the basket weaving. So whenever you see my pictures of the baskets that we make on the island, we have them teach. And so it was through my friendship with them that one time I wanted to book a retreat and they didn't have availability. So they sent me to the other Eco Lodge down the road, which is owned by a woman that has lived on the island all her life. She's 72. She makes me look like I don't have any energy.
Oh my God.
She's amazing. And she has known us for many years, and she has just completely fallen in love with my daughter, Anna. So Anna goes out in the summer and sometimes just does workaways and helps on the island.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So now Anna goes there without me to go make their own community. But through that community, then we actually have a lot of community. So people that want to train on the island with me, we go to this awesome island basement gym, right? It's called Beast and Hill, but it's also where there's physical therapy and chiropractor. It's a nice gym, but it's got all the good old equipment. And there's two very famous, they're called the Twin Towers, and they're these like they live in the Caribbean. They're originally from St. Croix, but they went to Florida, did some modeling, did some fitness stuff for a while. So they're well known. So whenever I have a man or a family with a man and a woman come to the island and I say, oh, do you want to train with me or do you want me to get you somebody to train with? Because they're just phenomenal. I mean, 26-inch biceps. I mean, why would you not want to train with somebody that knew how to cultivate 26-inch biceps without steroids?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So
no
that's
kidding.
Rajan and Ranji Edwards, and they're called the Twin Towers. That's their handle, and they're just really, really good people. And one of my clients came out, and they're very faithful. They're very Christian, and they're the ones that actually sent me to a church that I ended up getting baptized with those people. And so I took this man on retreat that was really trying to get more manly, and I was like, I can only help you so far. Let me hire these guys, and they'll help you. And so. Like the one man is teaching him how to do bicep 21s. He's like, you will do these reps for Jesus. You will do reps for Jesus. And so he's like, I'm doing reps for Jesus. He's like, that is where all the power is. It's so good because they believe. They believe, so awesome. And you couldn't shake their belief. And they believe that you be strong in your body so that you can do God's will. And I believe that. So we became real good friends real quick.
That is so awesome.
Right.
It's so awesome how like when you're on that mission, how all these relationships open up, all these doors kind of open up.
Yeah. Good hearts attract good hearts.
Yes.
And sometimes
Yes.
they attract crappy hearts, but then you just have to, pray. Yeah. Yeah. So the retreats are great. So this retreat's going to be super sweet, super gentle. I always go out 3 days ahead of time. So I go out 3 days ahead of time. I'll fast for 3 days and just, journal. Won't tell anybody. The woman that I'm renting the place from will know I'm on the island, and, a couple people will know there, but I won't go do anything. And then my daughter will fly in and we will get all the food prepped. And then they come, and I basically am at their service for the next 7 days.
7 days.
Yep. And so, in the past, everybody's different. So some people want a super active retreat, and some people want to rest. And last year I ran one where it was like too many people wanted too many different things. And I tried to allow for all of it. But by the end of it, I came home exhausted.
Yeah.
And so I said never again. So this time I made the itinerary, and I invited people, if they wanted to come, this is the itinerary. And me and my daughter agreed that we would not veer from the itinerary.
Good for you.
Unless there's weather, which there could always be weather. But we can rearrange things. But I recognize, and this is why you got to fail.
Yep.
Like as I'm running larger retreats, like I want to give everybody exactly what they want. But when there's conflict of interest that takes up my moments for rest,
please everybody.
you can't. And isn't that just an energy win?
Yes.
Once you realize you might as well just be yourself, and it doesn't.
So I love the message behind that in itself.
Right. So that's what I do is I do massage, but really that part of my business I'm honestly not trying to grow.
Yeah.
I give between maybe 10 and 15 massages a week, and that's me generously giving my time and energy. And then nutrition and coaching is what I do for the majority, because I can do it via Zoom, I can do it in person. And then the retreats, I have a season. So January 1st through about May.
Okay.
And that's I'll come or go. And then I haven't told you I didn't tell you about the food pantry.
No.
Okay.
No, we haven't talked about the food pantry at all. That's something in my mind because I've wanted to know about that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I am the community outreach for the Edward and June food pantry, Edward and June Kellogg Foundation food pantry out of Hidden Springs Church. So since I started going there, I've been interested in the food pantry. I've taught a ton of free classes at Hidden Springs on nutrition.
Yep.
And a lot of people have come through. And I've always been asking the people that were running it if I could be part of the food pantry. No, whatever. They had their thing for years and years. Well, they left, and there was a board meeting, and people were thinking about possibly ending it. This is the longest standing food pantry in Livingston County. It has been going on. It started with a lady named Joan Beckley, and she was the sister of the pastor, they're both called pastors. The pastor and his wife were both pastors. And she would start, and she'd buy one, get one freeze. And she would say, I'm going to buy one for me, and I'm going to get one for whoever Jesus sends to me.
Wow.
That's how the food pantry started. And so they're talking about, I said, no. I said, you are not allowed to close the food pantry until you give me a shot. This is my life. And I stand by, I get mad when people think that people that don't have money deserve poor quality food. That is crap. I have studied all over the world with some of the best medicine people in the world. And you know what they eat? They eat clean, whole, homegrown food, simple staples, corn, rice, beans, whatever, and they're very healthy. So if we're going to put crap in our pantries, and I'm not saying there's crap in there, but if we're going to put chemicals in our foods, it's just not nice, right?
Yep.
And so I don't like the idea of let's practice on the impoverished. That actually makes me angry inside. So we are working on reestablishing. If anybody wants to donate to the food pantry, by all means, send Hidden Springs Church a check and put in the memo, Edward and June Kellogg Food Pantry or Food Pantry, because that is something that the whole community can get behind, is helping to feed people in need. And if you don't know, there is a need. So that was one of the people at the church were like, really, you should check to see if there's even a need in the county. And not to be rude, but this lady has not needed food. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I don't need to check. I'm on the Hunger Council, right? So I joined the Hunger Council this year to find out more about what is actually going on in Livingston County, and people need to open their eyes. The mean income in our county is $96,000. There's 196,000 of us. The mean price for a house that's available is not hitting the range of people that need housing, right? So there's a lot of gaps that a lot of really good people are trying to help fill. And so food's my thing, and it's radically inclusive. So that's the other thing. I don't care. I have my own political beliefs. I have my own gender beliefs. I have all of my own beliefs.
Yep.
But feeding people is a radically inclusive idea. Every single person on this planet deserves good hydration, good nutrition. Everybody deserves to move at no matter what level they can move. They deserve clean places and good fresh air, and everybody deserves rest. Nobody should feel like they have to be stressed all the time and not able to rest because they don't know of who can help them hit their needs.
It's huge, and I love how you emphasize, like, as far as the impoverished communities, is like they usually get the crappiest food, the stuff with the most stuff you can't pronounce in it.
Well, and so I told, it wasn't on this podcast, it was on the other one. So many years ago, I went to Belize, and I spent some time with these two villages. They were these Quechimayan people, and it was Santa Ana and Santa Felipe. And and they don't have a lot of money. They're like super poor. And there was a major flood that happened while our people were there. We were not there during flood season. The Moho River overflowed. And these people that had let us into their homes, taught us their medicines, taught us how to make pots, let us sing and play with their children. Literally, animals drugged out. Like, the flood was so high, the animals were like dead on their ropes. Their corn that they had just bagged for the season down the river. Their corn they had just planted down the river. So I'm like, they still rowed a boat to get to us and make us breakfast, our little group of people. And like, this little boy was crying, and he's crying, and I see him with his parents, and I said, what's going on over there? I was talking to the owner, and he's like, well, they're here. They're going to make sure you guys all get fed and everything, but they lost everything last night, Mary. And the husband, I was like, are you guys okay? He said, the weather is God. We will obey. We will be fine. But this little boy, I could not get him out of my mind. So I said to the guy who was running the retreat, I said, can we put together some money and give these people some money for helping us and help them? And he said, well, I can't because, politically, I don't want my people that I brought here to think that I want them to give money. And he looked at me and he goes, but there's no stopping you. And he winks at me. And I respect this guy with all my heart and soul. So I made a little speech at dinner, and I was like, so can we gather some money to help these people? So we gather like $6,000, and I take it to the medicine man who we had been studying herbs with and the owner of the lodge. And I said, we want to give this to the families that helped us. And this man said, oh, Mary, he said, we can't just give to certain families and not all, because we are all one family. If I give money to only certain families, we will create greed, envy, jealousy amongst our people, amongst our family. And here I am with this money, and I'm thinking, oh my God, wait. And I'm so sorry. I didn't even think of that. I'm like young, right?
Yeah.
And I said, so what do we do with it? And he goes, we turn it into corn, Mary. And he said, the Belizean Red Cross, the government here, isn't going to help our people. So they really did lose everything. He said, what we can do is we can turn this into corn, get corn brought in, and per each, however many people are in the family, we can give them the amount of corn that's in their household, because that's really the most important thing that they lost. And I was like, thank God. So months later, I get like 52 letters from every single household, like in an envelope, granting me like millions of blessings on behalf of the benevolent Mayan spirits and all of the, they were so thankful, right? But that government wasn't going to help them at all. They were just going to be out of luck. In our little $6,000, it doesn't seem like a lot in America, but that literally gave, I forget how many pounds of corn to each family, but it helped them until the next crop. And so these people, like, most of the women didn't have shoes in the villages. Most of the children, they were happy. They would all, it didn't matter if we came in and they had these little cinder blocks and these little, fires underneath them. They would all ask us if we wanted some corn. Whatever they had, they were going to share with us. They were happy. They didn't have a lot. They were kind. And you see people in the United States that have so much, and they're so worried about sharing anything.
Yeah.
But the reality is these people didn't have the government support, so they didn't have the government crap food either. They really didn't. I'm not trying to diss our government, but we have let a lot of things into our food supply that are hard-nosed.
Yep.
Hard-nosed. And I really love that we're working on getting dyes out of our food, and we need to get high fructose corn syrup out of our food. We need to get trans fats. Trans fats were banned in the 1980s. They were invented after World War II when we were all depressed and they wanted to give us a shelf-stable, calorie source of fat in the form of Crisco, things like that. Banned in the 1980s. I guarantee that you can find a potato chip bag that says no trans fats.
Yeah.
It is 2025. Why are we bragging? Why are we bragging that something that should not be in our food anyhow is still in our food? Well, because the people with enough money can still put it in. They microdose us with shit that don't work for our heart. And so, again, that's where I think a lot of really good things are happening in our world today. But I have trained with, I've actually trained with some Lakota people that actually did get a lot of support from our government, and they don't have high quality food. So that was in South Dakota, but in Belize, super clean food. In Peru, a place called Tamashiaku, super, they are, growing their own chickens, gathering their own food, farming, all that, super clean, super healthy, super happy, the medicine man I spent time with there was 97. So that's what I did. I went to Peru right after our last conversation.
Yep.
And
was that the whole experience with your? Yeah.
Yeah. So for years, I had thought about going to Peru because I had a bad brain injury in 2016. And the person that did my brain scans or whatever was like, Mary, I work with the Detroit Lions and this is really bad. And I was like, okay, yeah, great. I know it's bad because I don't have the same brain that I used to have. I was basically a little genius. And I'm not saying that to be cool. I was a shithead. I was a little snotty genius too. I mean, I knew I was smart and I didn't. So I wouldn't trade that concussion for the world because my heart is so much huger now. I wouldn't trade it. However, U of M didn't help me very much, I'll be honest. I finally, my doctor referred me to a place called the University of Pittsburgh Sports Medicine Complex, and his doctor is Dr. Daniel Amen. So he said, if the people that work with the best athletes, the Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s of the world, the football players of the world can't help you, then you'll go to my doctor in California, Dr. Daniel Amen. He's the brain guy. So because I'm an athlete, I went to the UPMC. I scored real low on a lot of tests in the beginning. And then after about a year of doing all of the things they told me to, it was brutal. I had anxiety therapy. I had exertion therapy. I had cognitive therapy. I had, the eye therapy, all these things I had to do every day to get myself back online because I really had a brain injury. And I got a lot better. To point where after about a year, my last test, I was scoring 98% on all of the cognitive everything. So I went from literally in less than double digits on my scores that made me feel like I knew something was still wrong. Because a lot of the places were just like, no, you're fine. You just need to learn coping behaviors. I didn't want to cope the rest of my life. I was terrified to speak in public, terrified. That's what I had done almost my whole life. I couldn't do math anymore. I fired all my nutrition clients. I was like, you guys are fine. You got it. I didn't do anything for about a year and a half other than live in overwhelm and think of ways that I could harm myself forever. And that's not me. My doctor knew that. And when I told him, I said, this is happening in my mind and you know me. Then he literally just, in Mary Vance talk, explained to me how concussions work and explained how if something isn't connecting with other parts, after a while now this part stops working. So now it's like the lights are off in this room. They haven't been talking to this room. The lights start to shut off in this room. So that's why the concussion, it's got to be dealt with within 5 years when it's bad. And so you have to really get active. And I knew me before and I knew me after. Well, I would say that I was clocking maybe 85% back towards the Mary that I once knew. Mm-hmm. But I knew there was still some things that weren't right. And I could tell because I knew me, I remembered, and I couldn't quite get back there. Well, I had two people tell me to research a guy named Gabor Mate, and he's a Hungarian psychologist that has studied addiction and trauma his whole life through his career. And then he also studies the effects of ayahuasca and the medicine purposes of how it helps the brain to make new connections and create that resiliency of that being able to turn itself back on. So I have a dream one night that I'm supposed to call a buddy of mine that I know has done this before. And he was my marksmanship teacher for many years. I'm an NRA marksman. I used to be an NRA instructor. He's a very respected teacher and friend of mine. And I call him and I said, I think I know that you know where I should go to get help for my brain. I said, I've been researching this. I didn't want to do it because I've had a history of drug addiction. I said, but the research is undeniable that I think this is going to help my brain connect with other parts of itself again. And he said, well, you just want to get high, Mary, or do you want to like do the real deal? I said, you know me. I said, there's nothing about me that's looking for a high. Mm-hmm. He said, you're going to get dropped in the middle of the Peru and you're going to have to find your way to this little tiny village and blah, 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 blah. I said, I'm in. Just tell me where to go. He goes, you're crazy. I'm coming with you. He said, give me 6 months and we'll figure it out. So seriously good friend, because he knew me 20 years before the accident and he knew that I wouldn't just ask for help.
Yeah.
He came with me. He helped me. So this medicine man named Don Augustine and his wife, Doña Marlena, he's 97 now. He is a world-renowned ayahuasquero, and he is of Incan lineage. And they knew what I was coming for. They knew I had problem with my brain, and it was trauma and all these different things. And so we had a very small group of us. It was me, my buddy, his wife or his fiance, and it was their family, basically. So their children. Mm-hmm. So they're older, so they were caring for us. It was a very small environment, and so we do the first ceremony where they make the herbs there. It's the ayahuasca plant and the chacaruna plant, and they boil it. They do all the things, and they get your body prepared. They help you to get relaxed. And the first night we do it, and they give you like a little bit, and nothing's happening for me. I'm watching people throw up, and I'm watching people, sing songs and do all the stuff. And I'm there, and it was very nice. It was pleasant. Like I was listening to the rain outside, whatever. And the next day, the medicine woman says, "How are you doing?" I said, "Good." She says, "Oh, did you have any visiones or whatever?" I said, "No." I said, it was really beautiful. I said, I noticed some other people were throwing up and things. And she's like, yeah, I noticed you didn't throw up. She's talking in a Mexican or, different dialect or whatever. And then she says, did you see any visiones? I said, no. She goes, no colores? I go, no colores. She goes, no colores. I said, no colores, and she was like, oh, and I don't realize that they know enough to know that like my brain wasn't doing the things that most normal brains do. Yeah. And so the medicine man at this point, he was away at his brother's funeral. So the second day, he's still gone, but she's been doing this for just as long, and she gives me like 3 doses. And it was after 3 doses that I finally started to feel even a little bit like something was going on. And so we got there, we got ready, we got prepared. That day we got prepared. The evening ceremony is very short. A couple hours. It's not like this big crazy psychedelic trip or anything. Maybe for some people it is, but it wasn't for me. And then, but after that night, after the first night, I got up in the morning and I organized my things in my room. And I was like, this is what I needed. My brain starting to organize. But I noticed, I was like, I haven't done this, right? Like normally in my life, everything was patterned all the time. And now I'm like, okay, now my things look all, and I took a picture of it because I was like, something's happening. I didn't feel anything, but something's happening. So the next night I do all, 3 doses or whatever, still don't throw up. And I saw some colors, but nothing like what the other people were describing. Like they were in like a war zone and like they were like having waking dreams and all these different things. And so I go to bed and I journal a little bit, like, okay, I think something's happening. I did see this. And, I wasn't looking for seeing things. I was looking for, whatever the medicine was going to do to get my brain connecting again. But I was happy that I did see some colors. I saw like a butterfly, different things, whatever. So the next day, that afternoon, the medicine man came home from his brother's funeral. So you got to take a river down the Amazon to get to where we're going, and then a motorcycle to a trail to all these. I mean, we are in the depths of Peru.
When you said dropped off in the middle of Peru, I pictured all of this. The journey.
Yeah. So from Lima, we went to this other place, and then when we got there, then we took a boat down the Amazon River for 2 hours to get to where we were going in the next place. And then we took these motor caddies, like these motorcycle taxis to like paved roads, to sidewalks, to little tiny trails, to where we were off of the motorcycle in the mud, getting to where we were going. And I was like, man, I really want to get better. Like, this is nuts. So
it's like Luke Skywalker trying to find Yoda.
Literally, I didn't just want to go to anybody. People say, go to Costa Rica, go to Rhythmia. But I didn't, I needed like somebody who knew what he was doing. So this man has worked with the Rockefellers. This man has worked with Queen Elizabeth. This man is no joke. This man is a 97-year-old person who has helped a lot of people, well-renowned or whatever, heal from things. And I'm like, this is my brain. This is the rest of my life. So he comes home and we're all at lunch, late lunch, talking. And this is a day that we're not doing ceremony. The next day's a ceremony. And he's looking at me and all these things. And she goes, yeah, Mary, tres copas. And this 97-year-old man is taking a drink and he goes, tres copas? And he takes his glasses off and he looks at me. And at some point later on that afternoon or evening, we're having a conversation. He goes, what do you know about anything? And I said, well, I've been studying some things for a long time. He goes, what are you, 26? And I was like, sir, I'm 46. And then he takes his glasses off again. You know how these guys like look right through you. And he was like, And my friend says, Mary always practices being healthy. She always drinks clean. She always eats good food. She eats like you eat. And I was like, oh, he just said he eats like I eat. So anyhow, the third day, he ran the ceremony. And so it was, you do days of prep, then you do a little couple-hour ceremony, then you do the days of prep, and they're watching everybody. You're all in like a little enclosed room. To put it in perspective, we were with their grandchildren for the first time. And their grandchild, the third night, the one little boy comes up to me and gives me a big hug. He goes, when you were singing, I could see beautiful rainbows coming out of your mouth. And I was singing like Let There Be Peace on Earth. You take turns singing songs to kind of pass the time. And he was just so sweet. Like we weren't doing this with all these, crazy things. And so the third day, the next day he was talking about how it helps to get the brain talking to itself again. So we had an interpreter because obviously he speaks English, but not totally. It's better for him to speak in his mother language. And he was talking about trauma to the brain and how, this helps to get the brain alive and working together with itself again. And I actually feel like that has been huge for me. And I used to say, I'm just a little broken, I actually don't feel broken at all anymore. I have plenty of courage to get out into the community. I have plenty of energy to do what I have to do. And I'm not afraid to speak about who I am or what I am. There are people that are going to be like, she's a cultist. People are going to say crazy things about me doing this. But I did my due diligence. I did my research. I called a man that I respect more than anything in the world. And he pretty much handheld me there with some of the most amazing people to help me get this online. And you would have had to know me for I think it was 38 years before the accident. You know yourself. You know when something's completely off. And I can't tell you how many people that I know from in the athletic community that's like, something's wrong with me and nobody's listening. And they know, and they don't know where to go. So I always say, go to the University of Pittsburgh Sports Medicine Complex Center. Like they work with Dale Earnhardt. They work with the race car drivers. They work with people. They know what they're doing. The first step is not going to do ayahuasca. That is not the first step. The first step is finding out if something structurally is wrong. The first step is talking to somebody about what thoughts are happening. But so I had an amazing brain. I talk about it like it was like this perfect crystalline structure. I could take in data and actually, what are you going to say, assimilate it properly, right? And then I didn't. It was like it got smashed on the floor, and the only thing that held me together was keeping a picture that I was going to be more integrable someday. It was going to be better someday. And place after place was like, you're fine. And they'd literally look at me after I told them I'm not and be like, you're fine. And I'd be like, no. And so you got to be persistent. You got to fight for your own health and don't give up on yourself. Just don't give up on yourself. So now I have, when kids come to me that are either going into MMA or into football, people hire me to get them ready for pro sports or for college sports. I make them I don't make them. I very clearly guide them to watch the movie Concussion with Will Smith And then I also say, then watch this podcast with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Joe Rogan. And that way their parents and them and their buddies know if something goes wrong and this guy starts saying, I'm not right, they know the proper steps to get help. Because when you don't know, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and then the professionals tell you, no, you're good. So either one, you believe it and try to operate, or you just kind of give up that this is just the way it's supposed to be.
Right. So that was 2 years ago. And I haven't gone back to Peru, or I might go back to Peru. I don't know. I think about it sometimes, but whatever I needed to have done. The funny thing is he told me it would keep working on me. It would keep, they were very happy when the colors started again. And I used to dream in Technicolor Dream back before the accident. And then I didn't dream for years. And this year, really, I've had more dreams again that it's really like, okay, you got to have patience with yourself. And it's a good thing I track myself, because if I didn't track myself, I'm eating the same thing. I'm doing the same food. I'm doing the same exercise. How come my brain's not getting better? Right?
Yep.
If you have a routine, you can start to see what's working and what's not. It's kind of like when you go shooting. You're going to shoot 3 bullets and you're going to say, do I have a group? If you have a group, you know which way to move the group. If your group's perfect, you can be like, give me a higher caliber. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. This is so much fun. But I just get this picture of like, it's just like your brain syncing back up and, tying back to the channels that it's supposed to be.
Well, and like the ability for it to start making connections. I kind of like look at that with any organization. Like, if somebody from the organization was the main communicator and then they leave, the organization sooner or later starts to, not have people that their resources they're connecting.
Yep.
And I feel like my brain wasn't 100% communicating with itself. It just wasn't there. Like, and so I do look at how to create. I want to create all these things by myself. I don't want to go and like have to take medicines or, go to Peru to get better, but something was still wrong. And I had a dream. And that's the crazy part, is I had a dream to call my friend. And I said, I think you know how to help me. And not only, this guy, he owns several businesses. He's like a 9th degree martial artist and all kinds of amazing, like he's tight. He walks his talk. And I know I can trust him. Yeah. There's not many people in the world that I trust. Kevin Brown is one of them. But there's not many people in my world that I trust. And when I asked him for help, he not only said he'd help me, but he took me there to make sure I'd be okay. And he checks in with me every once in a while to see how I'm doing. And he answered the phone at 7:00 in the morning because I didn't want to forget the dream. I thought I'd forget. And then this whole things happened. And the funny thing is I left Peru. So the last time I did the ayahuasca was like, I don't know, maybe on a Thursday night. I got to San Croix on a Saturday, and the women all arrived on that Sunday for me to start running a 4-person all-women's retreat. And I did it without a hitch. There was like nothing. Like it wasn't. So that's what I'm saying. Like when people are like, oh, it's not. Yeah. When you do it well, and these people made the medicine. It was very low key. It wasn't like something crazy.
Yep.
When you do something well, you shouldn't have these huge repercussions where you can't function in the world. Yeah, there was nothing Thursday. We weren't doing anything Thursday night. We were sleeping. We weren't doing anything Friday. We were packing to go home. Saturday, I was on a plane. Or Friday night, I was on a plane. Saturday, I was my next destination. Sunday, I had food prepped, cooked, shopped, drove a car, everything, and ran back-to-back retreats for, I think, 21 days.
Wow.
And it was during that 21 days that I got baptized and gave my life again to Jesus Christ.
This is so cool because this was right after our podcast, right? Like all this happened like right after the podcast.
Within our podcast, all this happens within a month.
This is crazy because that was 2 years ago, but I remember even like you were gone obviously all that time, and I remember you coming back and like, oh my God, the podcast when you're out talking and you're like all the things that are happening.
All the things. Right. Right.
And like just for me to then sit down and like go back through, it's like, wow, there was so much that you're going through like right after this experience. So cool to sit down and go through it.
Right. Right. Well, and where's all the power? It's in the presence, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, one moment at a time, one drink at a time, one conversation at a time, one day at a time. Some people, and especially after a brain injury or after some kind of traumatic life upheaval, after, all kinds of, you never know what somebody's going through. So like the number one answer is don't ever be a dick. Like that's the number one answer.
Yep.
Everything else is like, okay, like how you doing? If somebody's acting really, really like a complete irritable snot, I'm like, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah. Something's going on inside them, right?
Or outside,
Yeah.
who knows? Something's happening. And, maybe nobody's asked them. Maybe everybody's just, they're the asshole, right? And that's easier for me to say you're the asshole than, wow, Mary, maybe you're the person that can like at least ask if they're okay. So
It's being a difference maker.
yeah, it is. But so since then, so many good things have happened in my life. My business still just, trucks along. I don't, I spend a lot, my kids aren't all out of the house yet. So I don't want to exponent too big or too farther out in the world until I'm done with that. That's my main priority is always my family. And Anna's doing well. She's in culinary school. She wants her own gluten-free bakery. She's amazing. Joe's going to school to be a nature educator. He's going to be a camp counselor out in California. He's always been a camp counselor at the Howell Nature Center, I think for 5 years. And now this year he'll be in California. Anthony's, doing his thing in Alaska. So the other thing about Anthony is then he got accepted into, so the guys that had been watching him in this best medic competition, seeing his potential, told him to apply to West Point. And on their word, he would get in. Well, he's like, Mom, I don't want to be an officer. I don't want to go West Point. I want to be a flight medic. I said, okay, apply to both schools, but just do it. So he did the application. He got it back. He's like, I'm not going. I said, fine, but at least you did it. He's like, I want to be a flight medic. So he's getting ready to sign on for his next 6 years as a flight medic. I want my kids to live their dreams. Mm-hmm. Yes. Awesome. Yes. Like one of my friends was like, it's like really high honors for the family of people at West Point. I said, it's really high honors if my children live their heart's dreams.
That's exactly it. Don't do it because you want the honors, right?
Well, when I die, if Anthony was doing something that he thought I wanted him to do, when I die, the energy wouldn't be there anymore. Yeah. And then he'd be left with, what was I doing?
Yep.
And I know because I tried to make my dad happy all the time. And when my dad died, there was a piece of me that was like, oh, it was tied to him. It wasn't tied to me. So.
Was that when you decided to sell?
No, he died 7 years ago. I sold a long time. No, that was like a resounding voice in my head being like, no, Mary, this is not what you're meant to do. Right. But I had the awareness because even if I sold the business, I was still behaving in a lot of ways that were to get my dad's love and attention, and that only lasts for so long. However, my Father in heaven, I could do that for an eternity.
Mary, thank you so much for coming down. I knew this was going to be awesome.
God bless you.
God bless you.
I love you. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
2 years date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another 2 years. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome.